All right, what's going on? I'm gonna try this again. Okay, so I just really want to talk just for a minute. I have a lot of you have followed me on my regular page and kind of made the transition to this one. And one of the subjects that is near and dear to me that I really haven't talked about, but I want to talk about is this notion of church hurt. I think a lot of times people who have been actually damaged by church have been made to feel that they have this disease for expressing how they feel. And I think a lot of times we don't know the degree to which someone has been damaged or hurt in church. And a lot of times it was done on purpose. Sometimes it wasn't done on purpose. Sometimes as parents, we've mishandled our kids. We've made them go. They didn't want to go. There's just a list of things that have occurred in people's lives that have caused some type of damage in their perspective of how they even view church. And I think personally, one of the reasons why a lot of churches aren't really successful in reaching those people that have left is because they don't actually reach out to figure out what happened. A lot of times when damage happens in the church, we allow people to become casualties. And it's almost as, hey, it was their fault. They left. We don't know what happened. And we basically don't care what happened. So we just let these people just go, and the cycle continues because sooner or later somebody's going to hurt somebody else again. And now I know, trust me, I already know that when you got a whole bunch of people in a place that offenses and damage and all that stuff gonna happen. I already know that. So you don't have to tell me that. I know that when you get a whole bunch of people together, you're gonna get hurt. I know that you got family members and family members hurt each other. I know that. But in the church, for some particular reason, it's not expected. It's not expected for people to go to church and get hurt. They don't expect that. So when it happens, and it will happen, sometimes people just don't know how to react to it. And so I think number one, I think it's really unfair for the people that have actually had things happen to them in church to be made to feel as though they have some type of disease for feeling like that. And a lot of times they don't express it simply because they've been made the victim of being more of a complainer or not being able to, as I did on this other video, just to get over it. But you don't know the extent of what happened. And a lot of times, people that have been damaged in church, most of the times they really don't even let you know, especially leadership. Leadership doesn't really know a lot of times what caused the damage, because a lot of times people, they just won't tell it. They won't tell it because most of the damage really occurs from pew to pew, from member to member. There are some occasions in which leadership causes damage that's irreplaceable. I mean, just goes over that. But I guess the first point is I'm often surprised and troubled at how people who have actually been hurt are demonized and characterized. Another thing that strikes an interest with me, that kind of strikes a nerve, is how the hurt is often defined by the person that did the damage. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, you did the hurt to me, but you get to define what that hurt really is. I don't think I made that clear. Okay, so a person is hurt, they're saying their church hurt. So what happens is, instead of us dealing with the issue, A lot of times, instead of us dealing with the issue, we try to redefine what that hurt is, or we minimize. That's what I'm trying to say. We minimize the impact of the hurt that person experienced. Because a lot of times what happens in the church, in church, we like to cover up, and we like to act as though hurt shouldn't happen in the church. Well, we know it does, but even when it does, there's a lot of damage control that happens. So we try to make the church look like it was the victim instead of being the perpetrator. And again, I know that it's going to happen, and I know that every church is not the same, but when it does happen in your church, and the church that your mama's at, or the church that mama's at, but the church has a tendency of trying to cover up the actual offense and make it look as though it's the person that left. Because we very seldom, when people are really damaged and hurt in church, you hear their side of the story. You always hear the side from leadership, from the people in the church, but you really never hear the side of the person that was damaged. And if you really heard the story from the person that was damaged, it would change your perspective and it would change your mindset. And I promise to God, if I would tell just half of my side of the story, it would, a lot of you who've been listening to these lies that's been going out about me, about people that's connected, it would blow your mind. But sometimes you have to be big enough to take the hits, to take the stabs, to take the gunshots, because you know if your truth is told, you would damage a whole bunch of stuff. So, hey, so let the church continue to do the damage control. That's cool and that's fine. Okay, so why is a person's experience, let me do this. So a person's experience, your experience, and this is another thing that I've learned, your experience being able to recover from church hurt does not mean that the next person that's behind you's recovery and hurt is not as insignificant as what yours was. This is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes we have been hurt and we've recovered. And then there's some notion that the person that is hurt behind us is not really hurt, if that makes sense. So because we've been able to bounce back and recover, we look at the person who have damage on their life, and we're looking at it as though, oh, they're not really hurt. Yes, they were just as hurt as much as you were. They are just as hurt, and they experienced just the same amount of pain as you did. And just because they haven't been able to recover just as fast does not mean that they weren't hurt. Your recovery and your ability to bounce back has nothing to do with the fact that they were still damaged. And a lot of times, again, like I said, we try to make other people feel bad because their hurt was not our hurt. And because their hurt was not our hurt, we judge it and we put it on a whole different category as if it really never happened. Okay? So I hear this all the time, and I think I'll probably be done after. I hear this all the time. You know, you go to Walmart, and there's hypocrites at Walmart. You go to work, there's hypocrites at work. So when you come to church, there's hypocrites. And these same people, and I know a whole bunch of them, and I like to use Waffle House. I like to use Waffle House because that's my example, because I got a group of them that they tell me all the time they'll never step foot in a Waffle House again because of one experience that they had at one Waffle House, that they found a roach or saw a roach crawling on the floor. But they have judged every single last Waffle House by the one experience that they have. But when other people who have been damaged by a church or a ministry does the same thing, then you want to condemn them same people because they have judged another church by the same standard that you judge Waffle House because of that roach. And it's not fair. It's not fair. It really not. So I'm going to do some more of these a little bit later. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Just let's try to look at it from another perspective. Let's stop trying to make people who have been legitimately hurt, make them feel like that they don't have a real reason to complain. When again, we never, it goes back to the video I made the other day, we never try to investigate. I promise we don't. I promise we don't investigate. I promise we just let people, we'll let them say they hurt, and we'll just let them say, oh, they just bitter. They're just bitter. They just mad. They just mad. But you don't know why they are. Go ask them why. Go ask them why they hurt and what's upsetting them. Now, if they tell you, hey, Sister Spoon sat in my chair on last week, and I got tired of her sitting on my chair, so I just left. Then maybe you can kind of lead them and guide. But what do you tell? Let me ask you this: what do you tell someone? What do you tell someone who, let's just say, who was told that they would get X amount of dollars for coming back to a church, and when they get to the church, that amount is totally different from what they were told. So now they have to adjust everything in their life based on a lie that was told, but now they've already made the adjustment. What do you tell them? How do they deal with it? How do you tell someone who has been falsely accused of stealing from a ministry and they didn't, and the leader knows that they didn't, but the leader never really came back and said they didn't, but allowed the people in the congregation to formulate ideas? How do you tell them not to hurt? How do you tell someone who may have committed an offense 6 years ago, but it's discovered 6 years later, and their whole ministry is taken from them? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? And this is the thing: we have to be honest about the things that are happening. And yes, church people are being damaged left and right. Does not mean that every church is bad. Doesn't mean that these leaders are trying to do it purposely. I'm not saying that. But we have to get to a place where we can at least be honest and deal with it and tackle it and address it so people can get healed. Because we have to we have to get ministries and things in place where people who have been damaged and are hurt, maybe there's a ministry that you have that you can come and intercede and cause that person not to leave. Because I put it to you like this: I'll be straight up and I'll be very honest with you. Had there been something in place when I went through my ordeal, I would still be in the church that I left. I promise you I would. But because nothing was in place and there was no effort to reach out after 20-something years, no one from leadership has called to this day. From the pulpit to the door, no one has called to say, hey man, what happened? You mean you was here for 20-something years and we just gonna let you go like that? Nobody. But I'm mad, right? I'm upset. I'm bitter. Because whatever. Anyway, that's another story. But hey, y'all take care. We're going to deal with this again. But this is the thing. When people say they've been church hurt, don't just push it off. Don't just say, oh, here goes another one. Because here's the thing. The church does not want to deal with her dirty underwear. That's the bottom line. The church doesn't want to deal with the boo-boo stains that she has on her panties. The church doesn't want to deal with the grass stains that he has on his pants, because the church tries to and wants to have this image of perfection. But you know, when you step in, the church is imperfect. So why are we acting as if we have to have this image when we're opening our doors to people that are damaged? So damaged people are going to damage other people. But we have to have things in place that when the damage occurs, we can at least help walk them through it. And again, we don't. We just throw them out. They've been hurt. We say they've been hurt. They mad. They upset. We just let them go. We just let them go on their merry way. And we don't offer any kind of help to get them back. But hey, and at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, God's going to reveal the real story. I know that for a fact. So that's why I'm learning personally how to try to stop fighting as much as I used to. Because I'll be honest with you, when I first left, I was ready to fight. I was ready to commit arson. Y'all know I'm transparent. I was ready to burn some buildings down. And God had to deal with me. And I'm glad that I had people or God connected me with people in Chicago, in Cincinnati, Ohio, in California, in Nevada, in Arizona, that had gone through similar things, and I was able to connect with them, and they were able to walk me through the process. And sometimes that's all a person that's been hurt needs, is for just somebody to walk them through the process, help them get better. All right. Well, I know I've wasted a lot of you guys' time. Appreciate you listening to my rant, my vent. Well, not venting, but ranting and all this stuff. But hey, maybe the next one I'll do some preaching and hacking, kind of make up for it. All right, y'all be good. Talk to you later.